And staying with the WASH world, I'm a fan of UNICEF when it comes to WASH interventions. They really know what works and what doesn't. Again, to them, WASH means something different, as there is a huge human factor at play, and especially when it comes to children. They work in some of the hardest places to work in as WASH professionals, prioritizing those that the Millennium Development Goals and Sustainable Development Goals promised we wouldn't leave behind. UNICEF has had a programmed approach to WASH and innovation within WASH, and from that they also have a heck of a lot of experience to draw on, which they've communicated through a set of WASH innovation problem statements. I don't expect you to be able to read those on the screen now, the text is small, I know. They're available at the link below if you want to go into them. But the main takeaways from these are that the problem statements have driven UNICEF to rethink the approach that they're taking to managing WASH and innovation and achieving impact. This new approach will be more end-user focused, more flexible in their project planning and funding, more accountable to society and the end users. Is this all sounding a little familiar yet? Meet Esther, one of the faces I challenged you to remember earlier. Esther was one of the co-founders of the WASH Failures program we just spoke to Danny about, and one of the authors of the Nakuru Accords. It's not hard to spot where those 9 points of the Accords come into play in Esther's current work. The UNICEF Global Sustainable WASH Innovation Hub is tackling their WASH projects with a portfolio approach, focusing on the scaling up of WASH innovation, making sure that solutions land on the ground well, ensuring positive and meaningful impact with the resources they have. The link between Esther and Danny is a coincidence, by the way. This isn't a tag team event. If you want more coincidences, Dan from Fluidion, who we met much earlier, is also very familiar with UNICEF WASH, the Innovation Hub, having gone through their process, speaking to Esther at the time. Again, I only found about that connection after I spoke to Dan earlier. So if anything, we could call this episode of the Water Action Platform the Esther Show.
So the WASH Innovation Hub's working across 3 different areas. We're working across connecting and convening, leveraging UNICEF's power as a big convener to bring people together. And sometimes innovations and progress can grow just from opportune introductions. I think we've all seen that. We've all got good examples of just showing that there's some research happening in the US that has benefit in Sri Lanka, and how we can put all of that together. There is a capacity challenge. Managing innovation means doing things differently. And as a sector, we're often quite a lot of engineers and technical people who do things in quite a formulaic way. So we need to add in opportunities and capacity building to enable people to do things differently. Initially, we're focusing on UNICEF, but our role is also to support government. So how can we support government to do things differently and to bring about change that enables that faster progress?
So just to interject, I know the Innovation Hub has also had a strong track record on working with technology innovators and startups too. Sorry, was that the final area that I just interrupted?
So the last area, which is the bit that I manage, is this carefully curated set of projects against identified problems. So we did some work where we looked at the WASH sector and we said, what are the biggest problems that are preventing us making progress against SDG 6? And we came up with 4 problem statements. And now we're working on a set of projects that address those 4 problem statements. So looking at these projects as potential solutions and generating the evidence, the toolkits, the means to be able to share that more, to accelerate how those can be shared and ensure progress against them, to allow others to replicate it. So that's how we see that piece working right now. And those are not product-based. They may have product elements, but if products were the solution, we'd have them by now. It needs more than that. It's that systems approach. It's around bringing the right people together at the right time, the role of the private sector, of utilities, of governments, and everyone doing their piece to enable that big change to happen.
Awesome. So that's quite a lot. You've been busy with this new approach, and you've already preempted and answered my next line of questioning of what is next, where is this going?
So the biggest project we've got is the one in the Horn of Africa, where we have got an improved approach to identification of groundwater. So we've increased our borehole success rates from around 50% to 95% accuracy through an improved groundwater mapping and identification process using overlays and verifying it with hydrologists and experts in the area who can take the improved geological data and put it all together. From there, we've now gone, okay, if we can identify this water, how are we going to access it, and then how are we going to ensure sustainable services. So the project's grown from just being around groundwater identification to actually how can we bring in the private sector and banks to have innovative, blended, sustainable finance models that enable the region to provide water and hopefully reduce the insecurity in the region, which is often due to water. So it's becoming a much bigger project that we think in the next 5 years is going to help people, 25 million people in the Horn of Africa, to access water. That's kind of the biggest project that we've got. We've proven this methodology now. It's how we scale that and give the resources and knowledge to other countries and governments within the region. But we're also looking, finance is one of the biggest challenges we're seeing in the sector. And we've identified models for West Africa around rotating sanitation funds. So this is the idea that we can get private or government donor money and reinvest it multiple times to see a bigger impact. So we now have models for Togo, Rwanda. We're working with Ghana as well. And once those models they've been developed, and we're looking at getting the investment now to then be able to prove them. And then we have replicable models that can be tweaked for different country settings. So that's the idea.
So is this the way forwards for you, or is like a constant reassessment of how is it going and some fine tuning to the machine and of the portfolio approach as you continue?
It's a mix of the two. So the idea is that projects will enter the portfolio and leave the portfolio. So there's going to be ongoing calls to identify innovations against the problem statements. But likewise, those problem statements need to be adapted, and we need to ensure those. So within a 12 to 18 month cycle, we expect to be updating those problem statements and sharing it with the wider community. We're not the only people working in this space, and we want to make sure that others can benefit from what we're doing. So the idea is to broadcast those problem statements just to see who's working in that area. And then we'll have solution sourcing opportunities where we'll look to bring new things into the portfolio. And annually, we're reviewing that portfolio with a group of technical advisors and specialists in the sectors and looking at whether or not it's adding value and what the vision is for these projects, to know at what point do we hand this over to standard programming and it's no longer sitting within the innovation space. But beyond that, it's also working as a sector. You know, we've just had major events like Stockholm World Water Week, UNC's coming up, and it's the opportunities to work as a team. Like, we can't solve all the problems alone as UNICEF. So who do we bring in, when and how, to improve the opportunities for others to innovate in different areas? You know, it is a group effort, and there's so much work that needs to be done in this sector that there's room for everyone. You know, there are some massive problems to be solved. So it's how we leverage the sector to address those challenges as well.
So thank you again to Esther for joining us today. If you would like to find out more about that portfolio approach to their projects, the UNICEF website has a dedicated page to just that. And if you'd like to be a part of that portfolio approach, UNICEF also has an open call to all startup companies, academia, private sector, and international agencies that meet any of their problem statements or are also working on the same problem statements. You can get in touch with the details shown here.